restoration back in the 1980s. And at that time, we were making big incisions to do scalp flaps and scalp transpositions. We were doing scalp reductions. The plugs and punches we did at that time were 3 to 4 millimeters in diameter. And that did a couple things. One, it left scars in the donor area in the back of the head. So we had bare areas where the donor sites were taken. And then we had plugs that looked very unnatural when they were transplanted. And a lot of times there wasn't adequate blood supply for all the plugs to survive, or all 100% of each plug to survive. So we had variable results, some of which looked okay, a lot of which didn't look very good. And it was very common at that point to have cobblestoning and unevenness in the texture of the scalp. So it was very obvious something had been done, looked very unnatural. So in the 90s, people developed a technique called follicular unit extraction, where we're taking much smaller grafts and punching them out and transplanting them and getting much better results. The problem with follicular unit extraction was it was always manually done, and inherently hair restoration is very tedious, and it remains tedious to this day. But when you're doing follicular unit extraction manually, it's very slow, and you have a very limited number of grafts you can obtain in a day, maybe 750. Whereas with the strip method, where you cut out the scalp, you can get 2,000 to 3,000. And now, with the advent of NeoGraft technology, we can do 2,000 grafts or maybe more in a day, and still have the benefits of doing that follicular unit extraction technique, where there's no incision, no scalpel, no sutures, no scar. But we've got a way to produce a very natural result, in that we don't look like we've disturbed the donor area, and the grafted areas look much more natural, and we're using an automated handpiece rather than a manual punch, so we can go much more rapidly. It works on a pneumatic system, where there's negative pressure applied as the graft is harvested using a punch, a 1 millimeter punch, and then the grafts are suctioned out into a reservoir attached to the handpiece. So it's much more rapid, saves a lot of time, allows for much better numbers of grafts to be transplanted in a single session. And that piqued my interest in that. It was very patient-friendly, and I felt it was the most patient-friendly technique we had available, and something I would do myself, which indeed I actually did.